Welcome to Gearhaven. This is a gentle fantasy story from the world of the detective Glint, where mysteries are solved with kindness instead of fear. Find a comfortable place to rest and let the Lanternlight guide you. The light appeared without a source. Detective Glint noticed it late in the evening, hovering faintly between two buildings where the street narrowed and shadows usually gathered. It wasn't bright, and it didn't flicker. It simply existed. People walked past it without stopping. Some slowed, some frowned. A few glanced back as if unsure whether they had seen anything at all. The light waited. "I'm not lost," it said quietly. "I just don't belong anywhere." Glint listened. The city had always been good at assigning places. Lamps belonged on posts. Windows belonged in walls. Signals had functions, destinations, and reasons to exist. This light had none of those. It did not guide traffic. It did not warn. It did not illuminate a path. It simply softened the space around it. Glint stood nearby and watched how the street changed. Conversation slowed as people passed through the glow. Footsteps softened. The narrow alley felt wider, less hurried. "I wasn't made for purpose," the light admitted. "I was made to be." Glint understood the problem well. The city, however, did not. Shopkeepers complained gently. Officials suggested relocating the light. No one disliked it. They simply didn't know what to do with something that existed without instruction. Glint suggested nothing. Instead, he stayed. Over time, the light became familiar. People paused beneath it. Some leaned against the walls and rested. Others stood quietly, not waiting for anything, just allowing the moment to settle. The city adapted. A bench appeared nearby, then a small plant, then silence, not empty, but comfortable. The light did not grow brighter. It did not spread. It remained exactly where it was, exactly as it was. One evening, Glint returned and found the space occupied by a couple standing together, hands loosely entwined, speaking softly. They didn't notice the light. They felt it. The city, at last, understood. Not everything needed a role. Before leaving, Glint wrote in his casebook, "Some things belong not because they serve a function, but because they make room for stillness." The light remained, unclaimed, unassigned, exactly where it was needed. Glint returned to the narrow street several evenings in a row. The light was always there. It did not brighten. Glint began to understand that the light was teaching the city something it had forgotten. Not every presence demands explanation. As the days passed, people started to linger beneath it without realizing why. A courier paused to adjust their bag and stayed longer than necessary. A child stopped chasing a loose gear along the street and simply watched the glow, quiet and curious. The light never asked for attention. That was its strength. "I don't want to be useful," it said softly. "I want to be allowed." Glint stood with it through several evenings, watching how the city slowly adjusted its expectations. Officials stopped suggesting relocation. Shopkeepers stopped worrying about shadows. The narrow street no longer felt unfinished. It felt complete. One night, rain fell gently, and the light reflected off wet stone, softening everything it touched. Footsteps slowed instinctively. Voices lowered. The city passed through the glow and carried its calm onward, spreading it far beyond the narrow space where it began. The light did not move. It did not need to. By the time the city noticed how much it relied on that quiet glow, it had already become part of its rhythm. Not assigned, not owned, simply present. When Glint returned weeks later, the light greeted him warmly. "I belong now," it said. Not to a place, to a feeling. Glint smiled. Before leaving, he wrote the final note for the case. Some things don't belong anywhere until we learn how to make room for them. The light remained exactly where it had always been, and the city finally knew why. Thank you for spending this time in Gearhaven. If you enjoyed this gentle mystery, you'll find more stories waiting in the playlist. Until next time, keep your lantern close and rest well.